Welcome back. Every federal agency now has appointees of the new Biden administration at work this week. 5 cabinet secretary nominees have had their confirmation hearings. For a look at what that means for the transition process, Terry Gerton, president and CEO of the National Academy of Public Administration, and Loren Dejonge Schulman, vice president of research at the Partnership for Public Service, former chief of staff to the Assistant SecDef for International Security Affairs. Ladies, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. Loren, I'll start with you. The transition process is starting, right? I shouldn't be thinking about this as something that is complete or even close to complete, should I?
Realistically, transition will go on for the rest of the year. I think that a lot of people look at the transition period ending by the first 100 days or so in terms of getting a lot of the appointees in place. But if you look back historically, both Obama, President Trump, President George W. Bush, all of them still had gaps in their Senate confirmed roles as well as their non-career SES and other political appointees by the end of the year. And it's a huge job. At this point, Biden only has about 50 or so appointees who require Senate confirmation named, and only one of them, as of this morning, Avril Haines, has been confirmed by the Senate, though I think realistically by the end of the day we'll see a couple of more. So there's a long way to go before he's got his leadership team in place, but I know he's working really hard to get a lot of those folks through the process as soon as possible.
Terry, what does that mean for the career civil servants that will be welcoming people into their agencies for the next several months and maybe even for the rest of this year, as Loren lays out?
Well, I think the wonderful thing about our system is that the work goes on because we have that professional civil service corps. So the work was happening on January 19th and the work is happening on January 21st. But there is so much work to do. So as you're starting to see, this transition team was really focused on having people in place on day one that didn't require confirmation. So they're already up and rolling inside those departments and agencies, getting the agenda in place, getting people onboarded with the concepts, the career civil service is getting used to some of these folks who are going to be in the deputies and assistant positions. And so that was a really key feature. You could tell that this transition team really knew what they were doing.
Terry, is that a strategy? Is that a precedent that we should expect to see in future transitions? One of the arguments that I had never heard this from anybody officially inside the transition, but one of the strategies one of the reasons that apparently was a strategy was because so many of those jobs were still open and had been open for substantial periods of time in the Trump administration. Should we expect to see that, whoever is elected in 24 and 28 and so on, that a lot more attention will be paid to those non-Senate confirmed jobs?
I think it's a really practical strategy. You know, we used to think that you wanted to fill at the top and then give that person the option to fill on the lower positions with their choice of people. But given the length of time that it takes to get folks through Senate confirmation, you really can't wait. As Loren said, we're going to expect the transition as it is to go on for the rest of the year. You don't want it to take longer than that. So coming into day one with people in those lower level career positions really gives you a jump start and lets you start working on your agenda right away. I think we will start to see it as a more normal practice in future transitions.
Loren, you're nodding your head in agreement. It looks like you think that that is the case as well in the NatSec community, in the defense community, and all across the government?
Absolutely. I think that we have seen the Biden transition do something, as Terry said, that really hasn't been done before in accelerating these non-careers, senior executive service and other political appointees to be in their buildings on day one, but also do as thorough a job as possible naming career officials into acting roles. The federal government has a long ways to go in terms of getting its cabinet in place and others, but it's in no way leaderless or rudderless. The work continues, as Terry says, and the Biden administration has clearly prioritized making sure that there are leaders, particularly in the crisis areas that they're facing right now, that will be prepared to implement the new policies and welcome the new appointees as rapidly as possible.
Loren, some of my friends tease me because I always talk about what happens at the end, and the end in this case is the end of this cycle of appointees concluding their time in government. That usually happens in the 18 to 24-month period. So it's encouraging, I suppose, that you're saying that the opening round of transition could be finished by the end of this year. That still gives folks 6 months to a year to maybe 18 months to be able to really get something done.
Francis, you're raising a great point. Political appointees don't generally stay in for the full term. They often are in, by average, 18 months to 2 years. It's a really short turnaround to be able to get anything accomplished at that point. But by taking this approach of having a slate of leaders who are deliberately chosen for either their experience, their expertise, or their desire to get things done rapidly, I think the Biden administration is setting itself up for success, not only for the political priorities, but for really good collaboration with the career workforce. And we saw President Biden issued, I believe it was yesterday, an incredibly moving message to the career workforce saying, we value you, we know you're doing the hard work, and we look forward to partnering with you. So that recognition, I think, will serve them very well in implementing not only their priorities, but addressing all of their crises that they're having to deal with right now.
Terry, as Loren was answering that question, I was thinking in the context of that turnover, the volume of turnover, we essentially have been going through a transition pretty much for the last 4 years. If you look at the number of acting people and the number of unfilled positions, especially in agencies like the Department of Homeland Security. What does that do for the career force that at least, even if it takes till December, that at least there should be some period of time of calm and a lack of churn?
Well, again, you make a great point. And Loren said something that was so important, that these folks that are coming in are experienced in government. So even though they might be in different positions than they've had before, they know how government works. They know how to work together with their career workforce. And that's going to be really powerful. So they can build their teams faster. They can get on to activity faster. The tenor of this administration around support and encouragement for the federal workforce is already having an impact on the environment. And so I think we're going to start to see some action really quickly.
Terry Gerton, Loren Schulman, thanks very much for joining me today. I appreciate your input on the conversation.
Always a pleasure, Francis.